Okay, so on last week's team call, Eden did a training on the things you can do to get in and stay in momentum in your business, and then a couple of things that will take you out of momentum in your business. Drop a 1 in the chat box if you got value from last week's call. From what I understood, it was a great call, and Eden really brought some phenomenal content, which doesn't surprise me. So when I looked at her list of things that she taught on, I thought, okay, let me just take one of those things and see if I can help to kind of really work with that concept in a bit of a deeper way. And so the one thing that I looked at, I think this was a little bit the feedback that she got was, one of the things that can obviously take us out of momentum in any area of our life, not just business. And that's something that's really important for you to remember, is that for the most part, when Eden and I come and teach on these Sunday night trainings, if you've noticed, not as often are we teaching the skills of network marketing as much anymore, because you have incredible leadership on this team, right? This is a 5-year, 6-year, 5-year-old team. There's incredible leadership. You guys are learning your skills. You have your systems that you've evolved and things like that. That's working. So what can we bring to the table at this point in our relationship with you? Leadership development, personal growth, spiritual development, how to stay in the game, things like that, right? And so when we look at that part of what's the thing that really stops so many people, that part of allowing other people to influence us in negative ways. Drop a 2 in the chat box if you at some point in your life have allowed someone to influence you potentially in a negative way. Just drop a 2 in the chat box. It could even be someone cutting you off on the road when you're driving and you get angry. So forgetting about your business, forgetting about this team, but in life, have you ever been in an experience where, so only a couple of you, only a couple of you, right? Maybe you go to get a coffee or a tea, and they get your order wrong. You get a little bit annoyed, you get a little bit frustrated, or maybe they're nasty. Maybe the person that greets you just isn't friendly and welcoming and whatnot. And so it kind of triggers something inside of you where you go, oh, I don't really like that. Now I'm going to be in a bad mood and I'm going to take that elsewhere, right? So influence from other people, whether positive or negative, is something to really pay attention to. And to the degree that you allow yourself to be influenced by anyone is really important to pay attention to. Because even people who you might look at and say, oh, they're successful, they have nice cars, they have a nice house. Okay, I'm just going to listen to everything that they say and take it for what it is. That's not necessarily always a healthy influence, is it? Because you might not really know the story. You might not really know who that person is behind the scenes. It's very easy to look on Instagram and think, oh, wow, they're 7-figure earner in network marketing. Oh, they're a successful real estate investor. Oh, they're blah, 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 blah. Oh, look at their pretty pictures. Oh, I should listen to everything that they say. But is that a healthy influence necessarily? Not necessarily. And the same thing on the negative side, where there are people who are really negative and really nasty. In fact, why don't you drop in the chat box, what are some of the things that people have said to you about network marketing where it was kind of negative? What have they said to you? What are some of the things that people have said to you? It's unreal. It's not real. It's not real. Like, it's not real money, Mikey. It's not a real business. It's all fake. It's a pyramid scheme. What else? Yeah, it's a pyramid. Okay. What else? What are some things that, I don't, Barbara, what's that? Secte. What's that? You don't know. You know what that is. Autocorrect. So secte. There's not an English translation for it. Essie, where are you at? It's a cult. It's a cult. Yes, it's a cult. That's how you say it in Dutch. Secte. Is that right? Secte. Sweet. Am I saying it right? Cool. Next time I come to Belgium or the Netherlands, I'm saying, welcome to our secte. Oh man, that's great. Okay, it's not good enough as a job. It's not reliable income, right? It's not good enough. You have to scam your friends to get your money back. I don't believe the money. Nobody actually makes real money in those things, right? And so then what starts to happen is we start to go into our minds. Oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't really give this a go. But when people say things to you like that, they don't trust it. They don't believe the money, right? When people say things like that to you, are they saying it about you? Or is it possible that they're communicating a part of them that they don't know how to communicate in other ways. So just think about what I just said for a moment. Is it possible that what they're saying to you isn't actually about you? It's that they don't know how to process what they're actually feeling or what they're actually experiencing. Is it possible that when somebody looks at this and says, oh, it's a cult, what they're really saying is that at a young age, I was traumatized in some sort of communal setting that doesn't allow me to trust in close groups of people? Is that possible? Is it possible, for example, if somebody was raised in a very strict religion where it was very hardcore, okay, where nothing was accepted, nobody from the outside was allowed to come in, and they were told that if you aren't a part of our religion, you're bad, you're evil, you're going to hell, right? If a little boy or a little girl develops the mindset, okay, based on this type of conditioning, and then they leave that conditioning, is it possible that then they could look at any other group of people and go, no, this is just like that? Just drop a 3 in the chat box if that's possible. Is it possible that their conditioning and the way that they view the world is really the only reason they're communicating to you in a negative way? Is that possible? Highly possible. In fact, I would argue that it's the majority of the time that when people are communicating to you in negative ways, they're more or less, more often projecting something onto you. Now, is it also possible that when somebody gives you feedback that feels negative, that it's true? Is that also possible? Is it possible that they say things like, I don't like that you were being pushy with me. I don't like that you didn't let me take my time. I don't like that you didn't hear me say no the first time. I don't like that you keep asking me for the money. I don't like that you keep telling me to post on Facebook when I've said I don't want to post on Facebook. Drop a 4 in the chat box. Is it possible that that feedback might be true? Is it possible? Of course it's possible. Okay. So this is one of the most important lessons I ever learned. And I'm gonna keep going. Is it also possible that you hear negative people saying things like, you care more about your business than you do family? You're not emotionally available for me because you're so involved in that. You never have enough time to spend with us because you're always building your business. You care more about money than you do anything else. You're so consumed with wanting to be rich that you're forgetting all about, the things that developed you. How many? Drop a 5 in the chat box, or am I all alone? Because that was my experience. That was what I was told. You're emotionally detached, Zach. You're arrogant. You are this, you're that, you're this, you're that. It was a list so long. And I learned one of the most important lessons in my life when I got this. And they said, Zach, listen, someone that was teaching the same concept that I'm now teaching to you. They said, Zach, all the person did was give you feedback. All they did was said, this is what I'm experiencing of you right now. It's just feedback. And all that feedback is, and does feedback translate? Is that a simple word that translates? Feedback? Yeah, okay. All that feedback is information. And because feedback is just information, you have the choice and you have the power to do whatever you want with that information. So, for example, if you watch the news, it's just information. You can do whatever you want with that information, correct? You could see something from the news that says, the economy is terrible, save all of your money, don't start a new business, blah, 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 this, that, and the other, food prices are through the roof, the government is the devil, blah, blah. You could see all this information and you could decide to go, you know what, I agree with everything. I agree with all of that information. And so I'm going to turn all of my focus to everything over here because I've accepted that information that's being projected onto me as my own personal truth, even though it might not be true. Feedback is just information. What we choose to do with that information is up to us. So let's go back to a couple of the examples. Okay, I think you're in a cult. Okay, that's interesting feedback. Let me take a step back. That's interesting feedback. Well, when I look at what a cult is and the definition of a cult, just pure definition, based on definitions of cults, am I in a cult? No. Okay, that's it. I think you're a selfish person. That's interesting feedback. Let me look at this. Is it true that I'm a selfish person? Maybe at times I am. Maybe at times I am. Now, could the person have potentially been nicer in communicating to me what they felt about me in that moment so that I don't perceive it as them being a negative person? Of course. But my work is simply how I respond or react to the information that's given to me. So when people say things like, oh, there are these negative people and these negative people are affecting me, no, they're not. All the negative people are doing is providing information to you, feedback to you, and it's up to you to decide how you want to allow that information to impact you. And what's interesting is more often than not, if the feedback stings a little bit, if it hurts you, when someone said to me, Zach, you're selfish, that really bothered me when I first heard that. And then my coach said years ago, they said, well, Zach, if it stings a little, it rings a little. That means that if it stings, like if you feel it a little bit, there's probably some truth in it. If it stings, it rings. If it stings, it rings. So I had to start looking at myself and go, shit, maybe they're right. Maybe I am selfish. Maybe I don't pay attention to other people. Maybe I'm not a good listener. Maybe I'm not empathetic. Maybe I'm not compassionate. Maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not who I thought I was. And the worst part about this exercise was, yep, if it stings, it rings. The worst part of this exercise, hey, babe, I think Wally wants to come out. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Right? And the worst part about this exercise when I first did this was it was always strangers. These were people who didn't even know me. They'd known me for 10 minutes. And it was just this exercise. And they said, well, here's how I experience you. You're arrogant. You're aloof. You're emotionally unattached. You don't know me, but inside, oh my God, this really hurts. Oh my God, this really hurts. But then what do? We convince ourselves that no, they're just projecting onto me. They're just being negative. They don't know me. Well, that's why I don't entirely agree when people say you shouldn't care about what other people think. I think it's important to care about what other people think. It's important to care what other people think, to use from a place of observation to evaluate if there's any truth in the feedback that we're receiving. Because if we're willing to look at the feedback we're receiving from an open place, then there's room to grow. But if I had stayed committed to the idea that, no, I'm not selfish, I'm not arrogant, I'm not emotionally attached, I'm not any of those things, if I had stayed connected to that idea that I wasn't any of those things, I would have continued to be more of those things. And then I got a week later, literally a week later, the universe said, poof, poof, poof. You don't believe us, Zach? Okay. Well, I was so caught up not being selfish, not being emotionally unattached, not being this, not being that in my mind, that I completely forgot about my mother's birthday and Mother's Day. Completely forgot. This is years ago. And she called me and she said, the next day, she said, hi, do you know what yesterday was? I said, no, what? She said, Zach, I really can't believe this. And I love you and you're a good boy, but Zach, you've grown up to be a bit of a selfish asshole. Yesterday was my birthday and Mother's Day, and you didn't even think about it. So was my mom being negative? Should I have not cared what she thought in that moment? Now, how she felt about me not calling, that's her business, right? Like how she experiences that and what she makes that mean, that's her business. But her business is also because we're in a loving relationship to communicate the ways in which I wasn't showing up in our relationship. And so I looked at that and I said, wow, direct evidence. Here's direct evidence of what these strangers were telling me just a week later. So what if negative feedback could be some of those positive feedback that you ever receive? Just stop for a moment. What if negative feedback could be the most positive feedback that you receive sometimes? Now, not all the time, but just sometimes. Because if you're open-minded, and if you're willing to take a step back and just investigate and evaluate the truth of what they're sharing with you, then you can grow. Because the other side of the positivity is this. Maybe you look at yourself and go, you know what? That's not really true. They're very much just projecting onto me. I called my mom 5 times. I'm just making this up. Imagine I called my mom 3 or 4 times that morning and she just didn't see it on her phone and didn't see that I called. And the next day she just assumed that I never called. What if she assumed that I didn't? What if my phone was broken all day and I just hadn't had a chance to get it fixed, right? There are all these other possibilities where I hadn't been operating that way, but I was operating that way at that time in my life. But if I had not been operating that way, my phone had been broken or I lost my phone or any number of things that could have happened as the reason why I didn't call her, then she gives me this feedback. Zach, you know yourself, blah, blah, blah. I look at it and go, is that really true? No, I lost my phone. I was desperate to call my mom on her birthday. I love my mom. Of course, I'd want to call her on my birthday. So that's positive reinforcement that tells me that in that area of my life, what she was saying was more of a projection and not something that's real for me. I'm just going to check in, drop a 4, or we'll drop a 6 if this is landing for you so far. Okay, just drop a 6 in terms of how if this is landing for you. So when anyone gives me negative feedback or a negative reaction to anything, the very first thing I go to right away is this mine? Is this actually mine? Is this my stuff or is this their stuff? So if someone tells me I'm in a cult, that's not my stuff, that's their stuff. If someone tells me nobody makes money doing those things, that's their stuff, that's not my stuff. If somebody says only the people at the top make all the money, that's their stuff, that's not my stuff. If people say, "Oh, well, you don't spend any time with your friends and family, and all you do is post on social media all day," that's their stuff, not my stuff. You don't know anything about what I'm doing with my time. And even with these people that you look at and go, "Oh yeah, they're amazing," blah 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 blah, who you know nothing about, you just know their online image. It's important. Is that true for me? And there's a big word that I want you to start to focus on. The word is discernment. Discernment, the ability to evaluate, is this true for me? What they're feeding back to me right now, is this true for me right now, or is this their stuff? Now, a lot of people will hear a training like this and go, amazing, it's all their stuff all of the time, I am perfect. And then we stay stuck. So feedback from people and what people think is a remarkable opportunity for us to express a couple of different things. One, it gives us the opportunity to express where we actually are in our lives and what areas of our lives do we get to mature in, and what level areas of our life have we matured in. And then the other side of it is that it really helps me to remember, and this one's so important, that for the most part, most people walking around in this world do not know who they are. And because they don't know who they are, they turn around and they communicate things such that you should be who they think you should be as a pure projection of who they might want to be themselves. Or the other side of that is you reflect who they know they could be, but it scares the shit out of them. And so rather than communicating, hey, Tommy, I see that after 25 years of all your hard work of owning your Windows company, here you are, all of a sudden you finally, you did it, man. You're out, you're free, you're traveling, like you're at these events, you're at the museums, you're at the conferences, and I'm sitting here at my job all day. And Tommy, like, I just didn't know that people like you and me could do something like that. And I want so bad, Tommy, to have the freedom that you and Essie have. I wish I could have that. But that's not what comes out. What comes out is, oh, Tommy forgot where he came from. Tommy got sold a dream. Tommy doesn't realize he's one of us. Tommy, it's a whole scam. I bet he's in millions of dollars of credit card debt. They're not making real money, blah, 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 blah. And all that's actually happening is the little boy that wishes he could do what Tommy's doing because Tommy's living the little boy's dream. Is the little boy doesn't know how to communicate at that level because the little boy, because most people have no idea who they are, they haven't done any kind of work, especially like even having this kind of conversation. And so instead of coming out in a vulnerable way saying, hey, can you help me to have what you have so I can learn what you've learned, we project and we get angry and we get judgmental and we get critical. So the other side of this is, when are you doing these things? Because it's not enough just to be clear, oh, I get on Sunday night calls, I do personal development, I read books, blah, blah, blah. You're projecting all your stuff onto me. I have self-awareness, blah, 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 blah. No. No. Are you willing to take a step back and ask yourself the question, wait a minute, when am I being negative? When am I critical? When am I judgmental? When am I not being compassionate? When am I being arrogant? Because here's the other side of it. And this is something I learned from a coach a long time ago. What we do not like in others, we do not like in ourselves. What we do not like in others, we do not like in ourselves. So sometimes if we see someone who's being, maybe they're angry, maybe they're snappy, maybe they're judgy, maybe they get shut down very easily, there's a part of us that goes, oh, I don't really like that. Why? Because I am that. Or because I used to be like that, and it's reminding me of the parts of me that I don't very much like. So the greatest strategy or philosophy when it comes to not allowing negative people to affect you is to remember that that negative person is simply a reflection of you in that very moment. They're either reflecting back to you something inside of themselves that they don't know how to communicate, or they're reflecting something to you that you're also then projecting onto them. And that's where the disconnect comes. But ultimately, all we're trying to figure out as humans is how to do this human thing. And to be very clear, no one has an answer on how to do it right. No one. So where do I go? I work as hard as I can. I work as hard as I can that when somebody is mean to me or negative to me, one very first thing I do is I take responsibility. How do I want to respond to this moment right now? Because is this true for me? If someone were to call me a selfish person right now, I would smile and say, thank you so much for your feedback. I really appreciate it. That's something that I'll look at. When internally, I know that's not true. I just know it's not who I am anymore. But back then, if someone had said, you're a selfish asshole, guess what I would have done? No, I'm not. Let me show you how much I give. If it's true, you'll never have to defend it. But if it stings, it rings. If it stings, it rings. So before you allow people to influence you in any which way or another, just stop. Responsibility. The word responsibility isn't about taking care of things. It's not. That's not what it's really about. It's the ability to respond. How am I going to respond? What attitude or choice am I going to make based on the information that I've been given? Because that's all it is. It's just information. None of you had an opinion on the cars that you passed today. Remember we talked about the cars a couple weeks ago. None of you had an opinion on those things. You don't care. But if you saw someone getting out of that car that looked like a homeless person, then all of a sudden you might have a judgment. And now you have an opinion about something. And yet we walk around saying, oh, I don't want people to have opinions about me. And yet you walk around all day judging other people, having opinions about other people, criticizing other people. You do because you're a human and that's how the ego works. But can you learn to come from a soul level? Can you learn to come from more of a place that says, they're not being negative, they're just being humans that don't know how to communicate at a higher level. That's all that's really happening right now. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to go to instant forgiveness. So you might call me an asshole in a very mean way, and I might for a moment go, oh, I don't like this person at all. But if I stop and I use responsibility and I just check in with myself, I can literally look at someone and say, thank you so much for your feedback. I'll take a look at that. And then I go to choose if those things are true. And then it's me influencing my decisions and me alone. But if we only go around taking everything we hear at face value, then we're easily moved in any direction. And we're really just like a flimsy leaf on a tree, and you can get blown into any direction. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, the wind is blowing this way today? Okay, we'll go this way. Oh, they said this way? Okay, we'll go this way. Oh, they said that today? Okay, we'll go this way. Okay, and if you want to be in control of your life and you want to feel empowered in your life, you've got to stop giving away your power to other people. And every moment that we accept something from anyone else, including this conversation that we're having right now, including this conversation, the very moment we accept something as truth just because someone else said it without really looking at it, we give away all of our power. And of course, when we give away our power, what starts to happen? Sabotage, we get depressed, anxiety, our mind starts going in a million different ways. It starts bringing up all these old traumas. Now I'm experiencing things that have nothing to do with my work that I experienced when I was like 12 years old, and then I'm taking it out on my partner at home or whatever it is. And all because there was a little part of me that I haven't looked at that got stung. So the greatest way to deal with quote unquote negative people is to remember that they are just people. So if they judge you, don't judge them back. And if they criticize you, don't criticize them. And if they have an opinion about you, don't have an opinion about them. Just acknowledge them as humans. Thank you for the feedback. I'll look at that. But be sincere. And you know what they'll do? That type of answer really pisses them off. What do you mean? You don't want to fight with me right now about this? No. I came here for a fight. I love you. I'm not going to fight with you. What do you mean you love me? You might be an asshole of a human, but you're a good soul. So I'm not going to fight with you. I'm going to go talk to my soul. I'm going to go talk to my asshole of a human up here and figure out if this is true for me. That's it. That's how I deal with people in general, positive, negative, whatever it is. Is this true for me? And even if 1 million people around this other person agree with what they're saying, and you check in and it's not true for you, then have the courage to be the one person that stands against the 1 million. Because that's real power, and that's real certainty, and that's real confidence, and that will grow your life, and that will grow your business. And it'll grow every aspect of your life too. And that's what I was going to say earlier. When Nita and I come on and we teach these types of things, what I hope the most is that you take these things into your life and not just into your business. Because guess what will happen when you start to take these things into your life? All of those quote unquote negative people, they'll look at you and go, she just seems so much more open. He just seems friendlier. They just seem at so much more peace. I wonder what they're doing. So here's what's fascinating. The less you defend the criticisms and the judgments and things that you're getting, the less you defend, okay, the more you increase your credibility, and the more they take away from how judgmental they're being. Because what they recognize is, it's impossible to be in a war if there's not another person fighting back. So when you're willing to go kind of above the line, and some of you have heard me talk about above the line, right? When you're willing to kind of go above the line, and maybe we'll do another refresher training on that in a couple of weeks. When we're willing to go above the line with that little boy who was talking to Tommy, looks at it, goes, oh, there's a different way to do this thing called life. And I don't have to do the human thing so angry. I don't have to do the human thing so judgmentally. I don't have to do the human thing so critically. Like, even though my mom and dad and teachers and priests, they were always like mean and negative and blah, 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 blah. And even though that's how I learned to operate in the world, like there's another way, and it's safe and it's okay. Like I can be friendly and happy and cheerful and loving and open-minded. And I can be all those things. And cool. And so now what you've become is this amazing mirror of possibility, just going around reflecting human to human, human to human, human to human. And that's how you spark change in your life. And so if this is really a subject that you really struggle with, and we'll hop off now, but you know, and if you haven't read the book, or maybe you have read the book, it's a book that I reread every year, is called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. If you've never read that book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, I cannot stress the importance of that word. of that book. Because agreement number one is don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. Remember, when someone is being negative or you feel like they're being harmful or mean, it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with them. And it doesn't mean you have to solve the problem in the moment. And it doesn't mean you can't create healthy boundaries. And we'll do more talks on all the little nuances of this, of course. But what it does mean, what it absolutely does mean, is that you have the power in any given moment to decide if you want to give your power away or keep your power within. And if you feel agitated or you feel angry or you feel upset by something that anyone else said, immediately you got to go, oh, I just gave my power away. Okay, so what part's mine? What part's mine? So that's it. I'm not going to lie. Eden was going to do this call because the game is on right now. I got to go watch this thing in the second half. Lots of love, respect, of course. Please don't tell anybody. Go Netherlands. Bye, everybody. Good night.